Radio in motion program loading in 3, 2, 1. Program activated.
Attention everyone, the unpleasant noise you are about to hear coming from your radio is not a mistake.
Okay, first things first, what is your name?
This is Big Sonny playing the best of the 90s and beyond.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah. Radio in motion.
Please do not turn off your radio, but turn up the volume on your receiver as high as it can go.
All right, ready? Here we go.
Radio in motion.
All right, thanks for joining me tonight on Radio Motion. Great show tonight. We've got motivational rock. How can you have INXS and Poison and Motley Crue and Van Halen and John Mellencamp and Richard Marx? What are they all doing in the same show? Well, they all get you moving and going. And no, not necessarily wanting to work out, although those songs are great for that too. But I think they really get you back to a time if you're ever feeling a bit down, or you, there's an ad on TV recently. It's a bit sad, but a bit funny. I think it's about a car. I won't say which one, but it shows people going to a storage facility, and they open the roller door, and you see inside is like their past selves and their dream, whether they wanted to be a chef or a musician or something, and then it shows them with a sad face slowly just sort of closing it. But then there's one, opens it up, and it was the car of his dreams. Obviously, you know, everyone's always trying to sell you something, but the ad's actually quite funny. Sorry, it's a bit sad in that, it shows that you had to pack your dreams away, but you don't, all right? And these are the kind of songs that make you remember you don't have to pack your dreams away, even if you're not doing exactly what you want or you're not getting paid for it. Much like I'm here doing this, you do what you enjoy, you do what your passions are. Nothing's ever stopping you from doing what you want, and if it happens to be your job, happens to be that you get paid for it, fantastic. You've won. But you don't have to stop. Anyway, that's my quick motivational speech. But thanks for joining me. We're going to have another episode of The Ugly Truth. And The Ugly Truth is the working class man has disappeared. And yes, don't cancel me. Working class woman as well. Working class anyone. But I feel like that the backbone of again, whether you're in America or Australia or the UK, Western society in general was built by the working class. And yes, you still can't cancel me because, again, I mean everyone. Doesn't mean you had to be born in the US or Australia. When I say working class, I mean everyone who had a dream. And I'm going to talk about this a bit later when I talk about immigration. I'm not from Australia. I'm from America. I love Australia. It has provided me with a lot, but I'm still American too. You know, you're a bit of both. You bring the best of both worlds. And not going too far on this tangent, but I always, like to remind when I talk about these things, I'm talking about, anyone from everywhere who decided to move their family and have a dream, no matter where you're from, what your culture is. It has all been mixed, and I think even, Australia and Melbourne and Sydney, and in America, I think New York is still one of the greatest examples of a true melting pot, something that I feel doesn't get discussed a lot. They don't use that phrase because it's more about, I'm sorry to say, wanting to be divisive rather than showing that you can all be together and not lose your culture. New York shows that no matter what, everyone who's there for that dream, and you ask anyone on the street where they're from, South America or Africa or Europe, whether you're Irish or German or Italian or you're from Mexico. It is about wanting to have the same goal as the place you live in, and that goal is, if you have a dream and you do your best, you can be rewarded. And New York is the perfect example of every culture is represented there. Nothing is lost. Everyone brings their culture. There is the Greek flavor and the Italian flavor and Irish and everyone who built that, and same in Melbourne and many other cities. Those cultures didn't lose their culture. It's not like they came over and said, oh, well, you just became, they just took your ideas and took your culture and stole it from you. Nothing was stolen. Everything was kept. The lineage was kept, but they were an American or they were an Australian. And more to the point, they were a New Yorker. Everyone there wants that dream. They want that dream on Broadway. They want to open up their shop, and they do it. And that's the beautiful thing. That's the melting pot. You can go out and see all the foods and different cultures and the different shops, and it's so cool to see that. But they have one collective voice. They're not fighting each other. It's not divisive. It's not about, the different parts of town fighting each other. That's pointless. Anyway, again, what I'm trying to always say is the working class man or woman is from anywhere. And if you are in the country you're in and you want that dream, you deserve it. But I feel like the working class hero has disappeared. And historically, the working class were strongly supported by, and I'm going to be honest, sort of very much the left-wing political. In America, it's Democrats. I mean, something like truckers, and I'm going to talk about that specifically in a minute. I mean, my goodness, the trucker was the working class man or woman, the backbone, and still is, the backbone of Australia or the U.S. I don't care what AI comes down the line, what comes down the pipeline, or God knows there'll probably be, I'm sure, there'll be the Elon Musk AI transport truck. Yes, I'm sure that stuff's coming, but for right now, it is people that drive that industry. Every time an Amazon package shows up on your door, a human worked hard to get it there, and definitely truckers, a big part of that. And again, today I think a lot of working class people feel like they're sort of politically homeless because on both sides of the aisle, now no one even cares about them. And I'll give you a specific example, and this is, if you haven't heard this story, look it up. Again, as I always say, don't listen to me. I could just be having wild fantasies. Use your brain, use critical thinking, look it up for yourself, decide for yourself. Don't just watch the mainstream news and go, oh, hey, the guy with the really nice tie and the guy with the good lighting said to me on the mainstream news, this is the truth. But next up, an ad for the actual company that we're trying to push whatever product or narrative sponsored by them coming up next. You see how that doesn't work? So find out for yourself. But yeah, in Canada, and again, this was during COVID, a difficult time for a lot of people. There were protests from the truckers because, the government there, and again, hey, we all live in Melbourne. I went through it with you. We had some of the worst lockdowns in the world, so you can imagine what it's like. And that was happening in Canada. And it was an unprecedented time of how they were locking them down. And yes, if you look it up, it'll probably say, oh, it was just because they were all anti-vaxxers. But you know what? And again, I'm basing it on what we know now. And please, again, research what you know now about, let's be honest, COVID was nothing more than a mild cold. And of course, you have to say that the COVID vaccine was safe and effective. I'm just saying do your own research. The point is, it is to this day, it is not just a normal vaccine. It is an mRNA vaccine. And they were pushing it really quick and a bit too quick for some, considering, again, I'm not going to get it too deep into this, but when it comes to those times, people were feeling very forced, and I think we all were very forced to do something where it used to be body autonomy was a thing, but then it was out the window when it came to that. And again, we were talking about the so-called pandemic, which frankly everyone was going to get anyway, and there was no stopping it. Even virologists said there's no way we're going to vaccinate ourselves out of this, and we didn't. There's people who are still on their 10th booster. I don't know why, because it had to run its course anyway. It was herd immunity. Again, I'm nobody. research this for yourself. The point is a lot was being pushed on them really heavy and really fast. And when now we realize that, not to be mean, a lot of it was unwarranted. If you were someone who already had, an immunocompromised system or comorbidities, not to be mean, I'm being honest, if you were already on death's bed, a stiff breeze would have pushed you over the edge and would have killed you. But of course, everyone in the hospital who was already old and feeble COVID was the deadliest thing. For them, probably not helpful, like anything common cold or flu would be. But for a healthy adult, just saying, probably didn't need 50 jabs of anything. So, again, having said that, a lot of them certainly did feel like this, plus the lockdowns affecting, their livelihood on a huge industry, and they're having to really come under huge pressure. So again, just put yourself in their shoes based on everything I said, the amount of pressure they were having. And so the Canadian truckers just felt like they didn't have a voice, and they didn't, because they were immediately being dismissed. They were being called every name in the book, as anyone who has an original thought these days or a critical thought immediately gets labeled a whatever it is, an ist. You're immediately a racist, or whatever you are. You're any sort of ist. You're against, you're anti-something, so you must be a conspiracy loon. How's that possible that hundreds and thousands of people who, again, are just trying to work and provide for their families, and when they rise up and just want to have a voice, and when I say protest, I don't ever mean the word violence. I'm not some sort of anarchist, but I do believe in representation of your government. It is by the people, for the people. That gets thrown out the window because we all think that, we have no power anyway. But you do. You have the voice. You're allowed to have that voice. And that's all they wanted. And the protesters argued, and these were the truckers, that, a lot of their personal freedoms and the right to have a voice in public debate were being taken away. So what did Canada do? And you can look this up, and it's going to happen more and more. And it was unprecedented, but now it seems to be, once it happens, then it's the norm. Rather than allowing to have that voice, and again, peaceful protests, if you're not being heard, in the normal channels, you have to gather and rise up, whether that's just raising your voice and whether you're, it used to be people would make flyers. Well, now it's maybe multiple emails. Well, if that doesn't work, you gather in the town square. Well, if that town square is X or social media, that's what you do. And for them, they felt they had to physically represent that by just, gathering together, with their trucks, with the coworkers, and make a show so that they could be seen and heard. And that's all they did. No one was rioting. No one was looting. They were just, you would see convoys of trucks. And again, I have to say, when I was a kid, I saw the movie Convoy, and I myself come from, I would say, upper, lower class, working class family, hardworking, not rich in any way. My friends, if they had a fridge that made ice, I thought they were living in a palace. So again, please don't think I'm coming from a mindset of some rich American white man syndrome. Anyone can be on the wrong side of the tracks. And I absolutely identified with what my father was, or my mother, and the working class man. And truckers, I thought truckers were cool. They were just, again, they were the backbone. And so they had like a convoy. And these days, the minute the people finally realize they have more in common than they think, the minute that people set aside all their differences, all their ideologies, all their petty left and right in politics, the minute they say, hey, we're not so different, you and I. No matter where you are from, we all have the same dream to provide for our families and try to set a legacy and work hard to get there. Hey, you know what? And you and I, we feel like we're really being oppressed here, so we need to have a voice. Let's get together and do this. And that's all they did. And the Canadian government froze their bank accounts, including anyone who opened up a GoFundMe. They would freeze those avenues of funding. That you can understand that is beyond scary and beyond government overreach. And we're not talking about the Kremlin or the, what we think communism is. We're talking about Canada. Okay, Canada is like America Junior. Okay, let's be honest. I get it, they're a Commonwealth country, but for the most part, I think they do feel the same when it comes to democracy. Well, not so much. And I think that was the start of showing you that even Canada, which is a country that is very, very left and is supposed to be about the people and democracy, turned on the working class and the truckers specifically, and again did so much so that they reached into their lives and took their livelihood, so they couldn't feed, their families and children. Took the ability to provide for their family, and that is going way too far just because they wanted to have a voice. And I think this is why I wanted to talk about this, that again, when I talk about getting together and making sure you have a voice, I don't ever mean something that is like trying to riot or take over the government. I think that is appalling too. I think it's about respect, and just like all the politicians talk all day long and they get nothing done, they don't riot and protest. They just talk and get nothing done. So let us talk, but you have to listen. And I think there's no other point in time except, I'll be honest, possibly the American Revolution. Okay, and that did get ugly. We are in a similar time where I think what the people want to tell their government, again, the people and politicians who are meant to represent them, who get paid by them, it falls on deaf ears. And that is not going to lead anywhere good. Again, the people forget that you have the power. And I think today the people feel powerless. And I want you to know that, please always know that your neighbor, your neighborhood, your friends, your family, the city you live in, the town, no matter who's there, you'd be surprised how you have more in common with each other than you know. And that is powerful in itself. And I think about truckers, I immediately think about something like unions. And then you probably go right to, oh yeah, it's corrupt and mobs. You know what? Like anything that involves money, I'm sorry, that's probably going to creep in. But at the core of it, I think that's something that we're forgetting, that unions were originally created to protect workers from exploitation. Because again, before that, corporations, and I feel like we're getting back to that point, they just did whatever they wanted. Hey, kids from the age of 7 can work at a smelting plant. Sure. Yes, using hot metal burning. Well, these nimble hands, they can polish the inside of gun shells. Look at that. Put those kids to work. Okay? And yes, that kind of stuff happened, for God's sake. Sorry, and that's the nature of a corporate beast. And so at the heart of it, the idea of a union is meant to come together to make sure you have a voice. And that's the altruistic side of union. To secure fair wages, safe working conditions. And again, these are things we take for granted nowadays, really. A lot of young people have no idea how you got to this. You feel like OH&S is an overreach. Oh, God, every time someone spills a small cup of water, there's signs that go up and paperwork and the tape comes and the fire engine comes. Okay, there's balances to everything. Sometimes it is extreme. But the point is it used to be the workplace could just be a horrible hazard for everyone, and no one cared. You slipped and fell, you fell off the ladder, people go, well, that sucks for you. No work, I guess. You're fired. Yes, that was the world. And again, unions were meant to help that, to band together and ensure that your voice was heard. But now people are afraid to speak out, because again, like I mentioned with the truckers and the bank accounts being frozen, in modern times, I do feel like, I'm sorry, government really can reach in and affect your life so much quicker than ever before. Because if you speak out, it can risk your employment and income, career opportunities. reputation and social standing, which again has a knock-on effect to your career and the financial security of yourself and your family. And that's sad that people fear the consequences more than the feeling that they have to speak out. And I talked about immigration. Again, you think to yourself, well, everyone who lives here works hard, and so you are brought up here, and you go to school, and you think, oh, I have a dream, and I want to continue to give back to the place I grew up, and so I want to work hard in this industry. And then someone thinks, oh, but someone has come from overseas and taken my job. And again, I'm saying that is the saddest part of all, because especially the working class, lower income, hard workers, and this happens in the U.S. or Australia. I think politicians love it when the lower income is getting angry at an even lower income class, who again are just trying to provide for their families. The same thing. When you're pitting both those people against each other, well, they've won. Do you understand? They've won. Lower income is fighting even lower income and mad at them. And now they're just sitting back and watching. Look at that. Now they're just mad at each other. Let them fight. Put the red ants in with the black ants. I'm sorry, I'm just using that as an analogy. When you do that, I'm sure everyone's heard, the ants are fine, but until you upset them and mix them up, then they are still going they go in a frenzy and fight. The point is they love that. They love divisiveness. And they're not your enemy. No one who wants to provide for their family and work hard, and you think, oh, what if someone's lazy or just a bludger or something? Well, guess what? That can happen from any culture, any gender. Men, women, and children from any culture can be hardworking or lazy. That's a fact. So anyone from anywhere who wants to work hard for their dream and provide for their family, well, you're welcome. You should get started. Let's get on it. And that's the sad part. When again, the sort of the hardest working jobs in the sort of industry that is getting flooded with, oh, by the way, so I'm going to give you the example, and I've talked a lot about AI in other podcasts. I'm going to tell you about the newest immigration, the newest immigrant of all, AI. Because if it is all about cheap labor, and it is, no doubt about it, I don't care what you say, a corporation just has to show that they're making money each year. You have to make more money than the year before. That's it. That's their whole game for 100 years. So how do you do that? Then you have to just have cheaper labor. Well, and by the way, this has been proven that it's not so really. AI actually tends to cost a bit more than you think now, but in their minds, that's the new cheapest labor, undercutting everybody, no matter where you're from. So if you're in the U.S., if you're getting upset that someone from south of the border has taken your job, and again, that's a warped way of looking at it, but if that's how you see it, well, even that person who, again, probably came to America for the dream and wants to work hard for their family, now they can't even get a good shot because they're going to be undercut by the new one, AI. You just pay for the service. You can make it work 24 hours a day. Again, not so much labor, but we're getting there. You wait. The robots. Anyway, so that's what I'm saying. The working class, is disappearing, and then they also love it when the working class is pitted against each other. And it is about divide and conquer. Political and cultural divisions are often just to distract people, honestly, from shared economic concerns. And that's true. We're constantly being divided by left versus right, identity politics, media narratives. It's boring. It's so boring. Aren't you tired of it? Don't you want to just get back to life? Do you remember life? I don't know. Pre-COVID, life I think it was pretty awesome. I don't know what happened now. And I'll leave you with this. I feel like it all started, and I have talked about this before too, and each part I've talked about is connected in that it is about divisiveness, and that's what weakens us. The people do have a voice, and it's when we get together and realize that's when the oligarchs, and when I say rich, I mean the mega rich, the rich you can't even fathom. The World Economic Forum the types who get together and they just look at numbers and they go, oh, this has to change because we're not going to get enough for ourselves. There's more than enough, honestly, resources and money to go around, but not for them, not for the Klaus Schwabs and the George Soros, and even, I'm talking about beyond Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. Those people, if you think they're the billionaires, they barely have a seat at the table of the true, oligarchs. But the one thing that really scared them all, and this was Occupy Wall Street, and this is sort of when it began, is when, again, look that up if you don't know what that is. It's when the right and the left came together, put all their ideologies and political differences aside, and finally decided to focus on what was happening. All those who were trying to loot all your money. It was a rare moment when the people from all backgrounds, they really concentrated on wealth and power. And again, I'm not trying to say, oh yeah, let's just take the money from people who worked hard for it. It's not about someone who's worked hard and had an idea and had a product and then maybe they've made millions. There's nothing, that is part of the dream. I'm talking about, there's the ones, it's not about money. It is about taking everything and making sure that they are always in control. And, and that the movement, Occupy Wall Street, it highlighted concerns about, the financial elites and the growing inequality, which I'm sure you can see that more and more. As I said, the middle class will be no more. It will just be mega rich and the rest of us. It won't even be, oh, you're poor. Poor is a bit of a objective. It's just the rest of us. And for a brief period, again, those divisions seemed to be less important because they shared the frustrations with each other of the system that's broken. And, again, I think it was that unity that was, a threat by powerful interests, because it really did, challenge their existing structure, which is, again, if you're the CEO of some, the Fortune 500 company and you're the one that had a hand in bringing it all down and destroying it, your punishment is, $100 million paycheck. And, well, God, I'm so sorry. This is all you're going to get. Here's your severance pay. It's only millions. So, yeah, do your best with that. And again, I'm not being some conspiracy theory nut. You look that up too. You look at what happens to those as opposed to when you lose your job or you get made redundant. I suppose my message is always understand that, especially the working class, you have more in common with one another than you realize. And, real change becomes possible when people focus on shared interests instead of all the manufactured divisiveness, okay? It's boring. I don't care what religion or sexual preference or gender or anything that you are. As I've said this before, you're more than the sum of your parts. You're you. You're an individual. No matter what you identify as you. And I'm me. And there's only one of those in the world. And when you just sit down and talk to someone, you find out we all are part of one group, which is humanity, and we all just want peace. and we need more of that these days. So I think, the real challenge is, real change is possible when, again, you focus on those shared interests. And, whether we can move beyond that whole political tribal thought and rediscover common good, that's all I hope for. I hope we rediscover common good. I'm someone who wouldn't even say anything political for a second. And I'll be honest, yes, it was COVID that brought this out. So there's a bit of awakening, and you can't go back. Once you see the strings of the show's ruined. Sorry, I'm not trying to bring you down. But we need to make a new show, and we need to be aware of the strings, but still enjoy it. I don't know, that was probably a terrible analogy, but you know what I mean. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you are the working class man or woman, look, the weekend's coming up. Your nights are yours. Enjoy them. Like I said, follow those dreams. Whether you're getting paid or not, follow those dreams. Keep them going in your life. All right. More great music on tonight's Radio Motion, motivational rock, coming up after a word from our awesome sponsors.